Hello everyone, Darkizer here, welcoming you back to the latest episode of my Space Engineers Survival Playthrough. I've done a bit of work in the off-duty time, and I wanted to give people an idea of what I've been up to. Let's start with a safety tip. When you are making changes to your existing vehicles, and up until now everything has worked fine, don't do that when you're really tired. Because of the fact that I have accumulated a fairly large amount of uranium, having taken it from the transport Charons, one of which I think is in the air right now, and I may decide to go after. I have a large amount of uranium, and as a result, I have decided to supplement my fleet with small reactors. And I was in the process of adding small reactors to all of my ships, and unfortunately, while I was doing that to the Scarab, I did not realize that I had a thruster that was sitting right in front of or I had a reactor that was sitting right in front of where one of my thrusters was. So I went out on a mining run because I actually found a gold and silver deposit, and on my way back, my reactors were smoking, which was a little disconcerting. As you can see, I've managed to set up the docking ports to most of my vessels, and these two, it gets a little snug in here, but I didn't want to devote all of my space to parking vehicles. I do have to remember I'm looking through a rearward facing camera, so all of my movements are reversed. And then we can turn off all of the extraneous lights. So I had to make some changes because when I arrived back just a few minutes ago, I had green smoke trailing out from both of my small reactors. So that was a little unnerving. I took the rover out, which I'm going to have to do a little bit of off-screen work. The terrain has gotten pretty torn up out here, and it's becoming harder and harder to get the rover out, so I'm going to have to smooth this down a little bit. However, I took the rover out on an exploratory looking for gold. I took the liberty of putting a gun on the back of it, and as you can see, I also put some reactors on the back of this. Again, I'm swimming in uranium, and I don't use it to power the base, so I thought, if nothing else, I could use it to help power my vehicles. One of the drawbacks of driving the rover, I like to drive in first person. It's kind of a rush of excitement and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, you don't have a very good perspective, and so you sometimes wind up hitting rough terrain or something like that. And so I had mounted a camera in the front of the rover on a block on top of the cockpit. But it didn't give me that much height. I couldn't see that much further than I could just from sitting here in the cockpit. Although it did enable me to zoom in, which is one of the reasons why I did it. I also had installed a mod which enables me to move the camera around a little bit, and it gives me a little bit of a field of view. I believe that's something like 90 degrees or 75 degrees or something like that. So it's not a bad field of view, and the fact that you can zoom with a camera, I planned on using the rover to go out and spot enemy bases and so on and so forth. And then it occurred to me that if I added a rotor, then I could just go up to a nice viewpoint, and then I could take a nice slow look around, get an idea of what's going on. I have this set at 1 RPM, so it will take 1 minute to go all the way around, and it gives me a nice leisurely view of things. Once I get this up on top of a hilltop or climb one of those shorter mountain peaks, then it gives me a really good lay of the land. Watch as the whole thing comes around here. And I have this set. It's a basic rotor. You don't need the advanced rotor because you don't have to worry about conveying anything. And I just have it set up on the hotbar so that the rotor is set at 1 RPM. I have a braking torque, although the camera and the block that it sits on don't actually weigh anything. I have the velocity at 1 RPM. I don't have to worry about a lower or an upper limit because I want it to be able to rotate all the way around. And I don't worry about the rotor displacement. I could move it up and down a few centimeters if I wanted to. The nice thing about it is the fact that I was also, after I had mounted it on the rotor, I was happy enough with my results that I also decided to put it on a piston. So now I have a periscope that I can use to look all the way around from an elevated position. Now camera 5 is my forward viewing camera, camera 3 is my docking camera, and now if I want I can turn off the rotor lock and just go ahead and reverse the rotor, and that way I don't have to worry about going all the way around. The piston is set to toggle just up and down so that the piston is always on, and it only gets 2 meters worth of elevation, but as you can see, 2 meters worth of elevation, especially when you can zoom, is pretty dramatic. So I'm pretty happy with it. And of course we have to remember to hit F. As I said, I do have to clean up the terrain out here a little bit just to make it easier to go in and out. This is the first time, for some reason, after all of the thousands of hours that I played this game, this is the first time that I actually thought of putting a camera on a rotor, on a piston, so that I could actually get an elevated view looking around. So go figure. This is one of the games where even if you've been doing it for many, many hours, you can still learn something. Now that's still charging. I put a paint job on the Sikorsky, as I have decided to name it. It's in a basic black and white motif, and I have that set up, and that's all charging. And I think, since I have I do love the animated cockpit, I gotta tell you. Now I'm going to go ahead. Maiden voyage of the Sikorsky, and since I built it as a recovery vehicle, I thought I would try it on something relatively small first. And since I just had an unknown signal come in, we'll see how this works. I'm probably going to have to install a belly camera if this is how I'm going to be approaching things. Now I have lots of upward thrust, so I'm not too worried about getting going too quickly. Although I am coming down a little bit faster than I probably should. We'll have to make sure that this is painted the correct color. So now let's see if this works. Yep. And there we go. Successful test. Let me get myself some altitude. I need to put little GPS markers on the top of all of these nearby hills so that I will know how high they are. So if I'm not flying at a safe enough altitude, I can know that. even in the dark, particularly when flying in the dark. Never have been too comfortable flying in the dark. In real life, I cannot myself see in the dark terribly well. My night vision is absolutely horrible. Now, I probably built this to be a little bit tighter than I probably should have. Let's turn some lights on. I think I need more lights in the house. I probably should adapt this a little bit better. And that's the main reason why, because I keep tapping that. Yep, there we go. Getting in here is unfortunately a little bit like threading a needle. And I probably should, just for the sake of my own sanity, move this system so that I can do this a little bit better. Just occurred to me, oh, my camera's looking at, I was about to say, why am I not seeing what I'm seeing, or what I should be seeing? Yep, definitely gonna have to move that connector. There we go. Let's turn off our build and repair system. As I had said, we've got a lot of things going on. I painted the Sikorsky. I made, and it looks like everything's going to get repaired. I'm going to have to just move this connector over. Why don't I go ahead and do that now? Perfect example of, you know, the best laid plans, and that's one of the reasons why I have my connectors set on many of my ships so that I can actually physically turn them on and off, because sometimes that little magnetic tug is sufficient to damage things. Now I've got way too many parts in here. Oh, I understand. And actually, I don't want those. I don't want those in there because I'm getting ready to grind this off. Yeah, I have 2.8K in uranium ingots, so I'm not lacking for uranium anytime soon. You know, it would be nice if they would actually grind in the order that you tag them. I think that might be stretching the system, however. So we'll let that get welded up, and then we'll have a new home, albeit right next door. We'll have a new home for the Scarab. Something else that I have done while that's in the process of getting itself welded, I had decided to make a change. I had originally had the Sikorsky station outside and I had the fighter station inside, and it occurred to me that if I wanted the fighter to be ready to go out and attempt to take targets, that it would be better to have the fighter outside. However, I didn't want to have my one military vehicle outside where it would be easy to shoot at, so I put a shelter over it to protect it somewhat from enemy fire. I didn't want to waste too many resources on it, and it's obvious that I'm out of metal grid because that's heavy armor. There we go. That's what we wanted. It's the little details that will sometimes make you nuts when you're doing this. The ease with which you can park a ship, for instance. There we go. Much easier. One of the other things I wanted to talk about, I have very much appreciated my viewers supporting me and supporting my channel. However, unfortunately, I am going to be taking a medical leave here shortly. I am going to have an orthopedic surgery done. I am having one of my knees resurfaced. It's not actually a knee replacement. They are basically going to take all of the bits that don't work, which is most of the bits in the knee, unfortunately, and they're going to resurface them with parts that work better. And unfortunately, after that is done, I will probably be unable to reach my computer, as my office is in my basement, and going up and down stairs after I have the procedure done is probably not going to be something that I should be aspiring to right away. So I may be gone for as much as 2 weeks. I am going to endeavor to become mobile as soon as possible. I'm going to try something a little bit different here. Since I have this thing set now to grind neutral, I'm going to see if I can get away with not having to color the thing. I don't think I can. I think that coloring it is required. But we're going to find out. And I'm not going to bother getting out to find out what the button is. Nope, it will actually, as long as you have it set to grinding neutral stuff, it would appear, as long as you don't have it painted the ignore color, and fortunately for me, that particular probe was not. There we go. All of the stuff that I would have gotten from those last two probes has been put in the system. The nice thing about that being that now I can use that to go out and repair other things. I could even use that to repair this ship if I get it damaged to a small extent. I don't have a lot of parts in here. There's my gold and silver deposit, which I should actually change the name of that. It's a gold mine, since I have actually mined gold from it. I have not mined any of the silver, though. I had mined some silver from previously, and I still haven't used it all. Might have to install more forward thrust for braking. Seem to be moving pretty fast, and the braking speed does not really thrill me. So, as I had said, medical leave upcoming, but I very much plan on returning as soon as I am able. One of the reasons why some of these videos may appear, some of the next few videos may appear as though I am not responding to my viewers, that's primarily because I'm shooting all of these videos back to back over a period of a very few days, and then I am going to go through the editing process and get them all edited more or less together. Really do have to see about moving that medical bay. Probably ought to tuck that back one. Just to make life a little easier. And I forgot to turn my connector back on. It's the basics. It's always the basic stuff. It's always the simple things that screw you up. Military Cardigan Bay. Cobalt. Well, let's go see. Let's see. Have to remember that I have a new ceiling. Turning off my forward-facing thrusters so that I can leave my dampeners on, which will keep me in the air. I see some pretty substantial looking guns on this thing. I'm going to try to use the system in the game that will allow you to match your speed to a target. I'm not that good at manual dexterity. Wow, there's a lot of guns on this thing. I'm a little bit concerned. This may not be the best idea. But we'll find out. Roll back out so I can actually see the whole target. Now, since I'm going to be basically tail end shooting at this thing, and it's going to be pretty much hovering right in front of me. Nope, that system does not engage at 1.5 kilometers, apparently. We'll get down to 1 kilometer or less. And I died. And this is why we have a medical bay. Well, we had to take a stab at it. I have a blueprint of the ship, and that means that I now know what I'm going to be doing for my next episode. Next episode, we work with projectors. I want to thank you all for following along. I appreciate the comments and the constructive criticism. Your suggestions mean a lot to me. As always, likes are appreciated and subscriptions doubly so. This is Starkaiser signing off. Thank you for following.